Good afternoon. Welcome, everyone. This is Steve Tabadji with Wickersoft. Pleasure to have you join us here today for a special 30-minute webcast on saving time with automated project status reports. Pleased to have you join us. The session is being recorded and will be made available for download following the session. We're going to jump right into the demonstration and discussion here today. We're not going to bury you with slides, but rather we want to make this a high-value session. Please do feel free to use the chat window to ask any questions during the presentation. And we'll have our presenter and demonstrator, Aaron Harkleroad, take pauses during his presentation to answer any questions. Aaron, you have the floor.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, so I've got my screen share going, and hopefully everybody can see this. So the platform that we're going to use today, so automating project status reports. I'm going to show you how you can use Power BI against project online data to automate not only project status reports, but also portfolio, program level status reports, resource utilization, basically the whole spectrum of project and portfolio management. So most of us, I'm sure, are aware that Power BI is part of the Office 365 suite. But if you're not aware, it is. So I'm signed in here to just an Office 365 portal page. And if I click over to the app launcher, or what some people refer to as the waffle here in the upper left, I can access Power BI. And in Power BI, you have different workspaces that can be configured. You can sort of think of those as like shortcut areas or sites, if you will. But in your different workspaces, you can have reports that Power BI report builders have built and/or dashboards and share with you. So you can organize your different types of reports into different workspaces. If you are building reports, Power BI is a very rich BI platform for building reports against all types of data out there. So for instance, when I click Get Data here and I browse some of the service lists that I have at my disposal, you'll see there's quite a long list of different types of services and databases that it can connect to. So imagine, if you would, that you want to see, perhaps a dashboard of users that have not logged in, with their Office 365 account in the last 30 days. Or maybe going down through the list here, you want to have a dashboard where you can see, trends of how people are utilizing your public website if you're using Google Analytics. Or maybe you have you've got some Scrum teams, you're doing some agile software development, and they might not even be using a Microsoft platform, might be using something like Jira, and you want to have, as part of your portfolio reports, the ability to do things like take a look at burn downs, show your velocity, stuff like that. And of course, we've got Microsoft Dynamics. Essentially, every service and application that's part of Office 365, you can report against in Power BI. Okay. Now, what I'm going to focus on in this webinar is reporting against project online data. Before I just jump straight into a report, though, I'm going to go over to my project online environment and just, very quickly kind of paint a picture for you. So imagine, if you will, in project online, you've got project and program managers that are painstakingly keeping your project schedules up to date. So they're managing work breakdowns, they're assigning resources, they're tracking and making sure that milestones are being met on schedule, or hopefully. Okay, they're perhaps doing risk management, so they're utilizing the out-of-the-box risks issues lists and managing risks for those projects. So a risk is observed, assigning it to folks and hopefully mitigating or closing those risks out. And then you've got other types of resources like project team members. I might be an analyst, a BA, or a developer on a project. And I typically use the tool to do things like fill in a timesheet, or perhaps collaborate on some documents. Like maybe I'm helping some folks build a project charter for my project. So I'm using Project Online to record information as well. And of course, my resource manager is also keeping tabs on making sure that if I'm needed or my skill set is needed for upcoming projects or current projects, that I'm not being overutilized. Okay. You might even have other departments like finance or legal taking part in governance workflows. So if you have certain types of projects that need to collect approvals for perhaps regulatory compliance reasons or things like that, that can all be baked into the processes that you have built in Project Online. And of course, all of that information gets stored in databases in the back end. So you can use Power BI as a very rich tool to gain insights and to visualize what is going on in Project Online with regards to your portfolio performance, project performance, etc. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to navigate into a couple different reports and dashboards that we have. So on my workspace, okay, I'll start with this Microsoft Project Online dashboard. And on the dashboard, what you're seeing here is quite a lot of aggregate level detail. So I can see the total number of projects I have in the Project Online environment that I'm reporting against, how many resources I have in that environment, and then across all projects, active risks and issues. If I want to decompose this information a little bit and drill down into specific projects and look at individual risks and issues, we can do that as well. Okay. And then I've got several visualizations here that will chart out things like, okay, resource assignments by the different types of projects that we're running. Okay. The resource assignment work that I have across my different application portfolios, so I can see which application portfolios are utilizing the resources most heavily, okay, and which of those application portfolios are actually getting their work done, since I'm depicting the bar chart here in terms of planned and also actual work. I can also take a look at what my resource demand and capacity over time looks like. And these tiles on this dashboard, okay, are part of a report that surfaces all this information. So for instance, if I was to click on one of these tiles, it will take me into the detailed report where I can glean more information from my portfolio. So you notice several things here. This particular report, we've got multiple pages across the bottom. I'll take you through a few of those. Okay. And on the report itself, we're able to do things like add slicers at the top. So if I did want to filter down on perhaps department or the different types of projects that we're running, or focus in on a specific project manager, I can use the slicers for that. Okay. Not only that, but I can also use some of the visual charts that are on the report as well. So for instance, I can see I've got a donut chart here of my different projects by the type of project that they are. So in Project Online, you can configure what's known as an EPT, or an enterprise project type, and that's what you're seeing in this, all the various enterprise project types that I have. So for instance, if I was the portfolio manager for application type projects, I can click on that. Okay, and then all the other details on the page. So whether we're talking these tile counts on the left-hand side, so things like overall project cost, the number of projects, or the details table down below, they are all now respective of that application project type that I selected up top. Okay, and if I just click on the same or a different slice in that donut chart, it will either change the filter to a different selection, or if I click the same one, it will undo the filter. So I can see of all the projects that I have in my portfolio on this first page, some high-level KPIs, total costs, when they're expected to finish. Okay, and I can also use some elements within the report, like for instance, if I wanted to sort these in a different order by finish date or by cost, I can click on the column headers in the report to change my sorting as well. Okay. If I navigate over to the next page, portfolio timeline, here what I'm seeing is sort of a Gantt representation at the project level. So those of you that use Project Online, you know full well that there are Gantt charts in Project Online. But if I'm sharing with a sponsor or perhaps an executive stakeholder, where we are in a particular portfolio or a specific project, those users are probably not signing into Project Online. So they're probably not going to see those Gantt charts that are over there. So you have the ability to depict timeline information in Power BI as well. So I can hover on different projects here. Okay, and again, if I wanted to focus in on, let's say, specific project departments here, like maybe my product development projects, again, I can use one of the slicers or the drop-down filters at the top to select what it is I want to focus on. Okay. Not only that, but Power BI has the ability to capture snapshots over time. So whether we're looking at a timeline report like this, or you're looking at a report where we have a collection of risks, issues, or I'm looking at project cost details, financial metrics, you can take a look at that information with respect to periods of time. So in this case, if I wanted to say, okay, where were we with our projects in last quarter of 2015 all the way through the 4 quarters or first 2 quarters of 2016, I can use my little timeline selection up here to focus in on specific quarters or specific time spans. Actually, I'm clicking on months here, I can see, but if I wanted to go up, drill up a level to the quarterly level, I can go here and change from months to quarters. And again, take a look at whatever details are on the page here. In this case, it is a Gantt chart that's showing me the overall duration of the project and what % complete we are, in addition to some other things like which resources are on it, okay? But I can view that information over different time slices. So very powerful, particularly with things like status reports, where if right now you're viewing a particular status that's, you know, maybe not showing exactly what you would want to see with the project, you could see, okay, how did we get there? What were we looking like a week ago, a month ago, a quarter ago? So you have the ability to do that in Power BI. If I go to the portfolio costs page, what you're seeing here is a lot of project detail information rolled up with regards to costs. So things like the overall project cost, okay, baseline cost. You see some calculations in terms of KPIs being made automatically at the top here. So any of my projects that are currently less than 10% over the baseline cost, I can click on that KPI and it will filter down the table below to show me what those are. Or if I want to see my projects that are kind of flying without a net, so to speak, those that don't have a baseline, so we're not really able to track variances, I can click on just that alone, and it'll focus the report down below to just the projects that do not have a baseline value. So it makes it really, really easy to interact with the data and get to exactly, you know, what it is you want to see here. One of the things we get requested a lot is to do roll-ups of information. Risks and issues are good examples. So for instance, if I go over to the portfolio risks page here, okay, those of you that use Project Online, you know very well that the risks and issue logs, they're maintained at the individual project level. So you have a risks list for each project, which if I'm reporting on a specific project, it's easy to get to that information, okay? But if you want to roll up risks across multiple projects, maybe to a program level or a portfolio level, you know, it's very difficult to do that in the tool itself. As a matter of fact, in the tool, you really can't do that. And by tool, I'm referring to Project Online. But again, with Power BI, reporting against the Project Online data set, we're able to do, in this case, a roll-up of our risks, our issues, basically any of the project metrics up into a department level, a portfolio level, okay, and still be able to interact with that and drill down to specific details. So for instance, if I wanted to view risks by, you know, specific category values, like maybe, you know, scope category or hardware related risks, I can use the category chart up here at the top. Not only that, but I can also use this Power BI page to interact with the actual data itself. So for instance, if I'm looking at this risk list here, okay, and I'm seeing this extra legal resources have not been hired, and I'm suspecting, I thought we closed that risk out. It shouldn't be showing on this dashboard anymore. You'll notice that I have a hyperlink right here. I can click the hyperlink, and it'll actually open up that particular risk item in whichever project site it exists on. So if I needed to go straight to editing that item, maybe changing the status, okay, or changing any other value for it, I can do so. Okay. And then when I come back to the report and I refresh the report, I'm able to see that new detail reflected in here. Okay. So on that note, you can manually refresh any of the details that are showing in a Power BI report. You'll notice there's a refresh up top. You can also schedule refreshes to happen in the background. Okay. In addition to that, in Power BI, you'll notice at the top, if you're looking at a report, there is a subscribe option here. Okay. So one of the nice features is via email, you can get Power BI basically delivered to your inbox if certain triggers happen. So for instance, if the data that is rolled up into this particular report changes, like we've had some new risks logged in this particular instance, okay, or some risks closed out, things like that, you can get an email delivered to your inbox, you know, letting you know that the data has changed. You can select frequency here. You can set different types of triggers and criteria. Okay, so rather than having to you know, reactively log back into Power BI and refresh a report and you know, keep tabs on what's changing in the environment, you can proactively have alerts delivered to your inbox. Okay. And of course, all this information that can be rolled up, you know, particularly project level information. So one of the things we haven't really looked at in this particular report is the resource availability. Okay, so you know, viewing across my resource pool, if I wanted to see which resources are being, you know, overutilized, underutilized, if I want to use this for some strategic planning to say, hey, do we have enough business analysts to take on a couple new projects in the next month, next quarter? Okay, I can use the insights that Power BI delivers to me to make those types of decisions. Okay? And again, I can, drill into specific details here. So if I wanted to take a look at a particular month of this year, August of 2017, and see, in that month, generally speaking, looking ahead, but maybe in the past month, which resources were overutilized and underutilized. Again, I can interact with the reports very intuitively and gain some more insights into what's going on in my Project Online environment. So all of this automation that's already baked into the report is very rich, but a lot of times users might want a bit of self-serve as well. So for instance, if I have a multi-page report given to me, sometimes it might be difficult for me to remember where exactly in the report do I go to see, I just want to see total costs, perhaps broken down by a department or a portfolio or things like that. So if I navigate back to the dashboard that I was using here to interact with all that data, okay. When you're on a Power BI dashboard, one of the things you can leverage is the natural language query, which is part of the Power BI feature set. So at the top of the dashboard, what you'll see here is ask a question about your data, and it will give you hints as you're entering information. It will keep suggestions over time to help you hone in on what it is you're looking for specifically. So if I click here and I start typing a query, show total project, let's say I'm looking at baseline cost by project name. Okay, you'll notice it takes my my natural language input here, and it gives me a bar chart of projects from the one at the top with the highest baseline cost all the way down to the one at the bottom with the smallest baseline cost. And if I want to change, to say cost rather than baseline cost, you notice when I click on one of the terms here, it gives me other selections. So maybe I want to look at, baseline work instead of baseline costs. Okay, I can change that very easily. Also, if I wanted to see this depicted in a different manner, so rather than a bar chart, perhaps what I want to see is a pie chart. Okay, all I have to do is type the different visualization type that we have in here. Okay, so again, maybe, yes, we have risks on a particular report, but I know that I can quickly and easily get to risks information by saying, hey, show me the risk names, maybe sorted by cost. Okay, and what I can do is, see again, from whichever projects have risks with the highest cost impact, I can view that information visually. Okay. Not only that, but any of the visualizations, whether it's a natural language query or one that's in one of the reports, again, one of the nice features that you have in Power BI is the ability to pin that visualization to a dashboard. So if I wanted to put this on a new dashboard, so I could quickly and easily open up a page that shows me the risks sorted by whatever their cost exposure is, okay, Power BI makes it very easy to do that. Okay. Couple last things here. So if I navigate back to my workspace and I go into a different dashboard here, I'm still rolling up and aggregating some project detail, but into a different dashboard. I realize that a lot of folks are using more and more mobile devices these days. So, when we're not sitting at a desk, if we even have an office desk anymore, might be interacting with this information or wanting to interact with this information via our phone, a tablet. So Power BI can automatically, if you come into a dashboard page here, display what your data looks like in a mobile view. So if I switch over to the phone view for this particular type of report, it's responsive, so it doesn't just simply shrink the page down to fit on the phone, but it reorganizes the data to make it a little bit easier to interact with from a mobile device. Okay. And finally, for pure automation or total automation. So imagine if I'm a project manager, and one of the things that I do on a frequent basis is, I need to report status not only to my team, but also to perhaps sponsors or executive stakeholders. So I might use Power BI and have somebody build a project status report for me. Okay, but I've got to continuously keep coming back to Power BI, logging in here, opening up my project status report. Wouldn't it be nice if I could just open up a slide deck and utilize that as my project status report? So one of the capabilities in Power BI is the ability to export and embed a report into PowerPoint. You can also embed reports into SharePoint. So if you're on a SharePoint site, you could create a web part page on a SharePoint site and display in that web part the contents of a Power BI report. But in this case, kind of continuing with my scenario, I'm wearing my project manager hat, and I want a quick and easy way to share project status on a weekly basis with my team, with stakeholders. So I can take one of these Power BI reports, export it to PowerPoint. Okay, and when I do so, I've already done that ahead of time. Okay, whatever details are in that Power BI report, okay, will be presented in a Power BI deck. You can see on the landing page here, there's a link to go to the actual report in there. The starting page of the deck will tell you when the data was last refreshed, when it was downloaded. Okay, but as I step through the different pages, so the different pages of the deck, what I'm seeing here are the different pages of the actual Power BI report. Okay, and also I've got the same filtering and refresh capabilities in the Power BI deck. So if perhaps a different PM who's collaborating with me on this project has just published some schedule changes or just perhaps closed out some issues, and I want to make sure that I'm viewing the most up-to-date information in this deck before I share it with the team or sponsor, again, I'm able to refresh that information in the deck. And weekly, my process could be that I just simply open up this PowerPoint slide deck when I start the status meeting, share that information out, and it can really streamline how we can report on project performance, program portfolio performance, and really not only make project managers' lives simpler, but regardless of what your role is, a resource manager, program manager, portfolio manager, any of the various hats that you might be wearing in an organization, the automation capabilities can really cut down on effort. So with that, I'll open up the floor for any questions, and also turn it back to Steve for any housekeeping and closing comments.
Thanks, Aaron. We have a little bit of time left here today, so if you have any questions, please go ahead and put those into the chat window, or you can use the questions panel inside of GoToWebinar. We invite everyone to visit www.project-online.com to learn more about the capabilities of Microsoft Project Online, including reporting through Power BI. We'll go ahead and take any questions that you might have here now before we drop, and thank Aaron for the demonstration. Certainly what we've seen is a lot of organizations save a lot of time automating those project status reports through the use of Power BI and PowerPoint together. We also welcome you to visit wickersoft.com to learn more about our organization. Today's presentation was very focused on the capabilities of the tool, but we're happy to engage with you to support your efforts around project and portfolio management, including reporting. You can visit us online at www.wickersoft.com, or as I mentioned before, www.project-online.com. You can also reach me directly at any time through my email. It's steebagyi@wickersoft.com. We welcome a conversation with you to learn more about your project and portfolio management initiatives and how we can support those through the use of Microsoft technology. With that said, Aaron, we don't have any questions. We'll go ahead and wrap up the show here, and thank you for the presentation.
Thanks, everyone.